Meeting of the Westford School Committee for Monday, March 17th. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand and join us if you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A reminder that this meeting is being recorded. We're going to move on to our consent agenda with meeting minutes, budget transfers, and an approval. I think I had mentioned this at the last meeting for a second student seat on the town DEI committee. Any questions or concerns on the consent agenda?
No.
Do we have anybody remote?
I'm just going to check something for 1 second.
Mhm.
I've got two different feeds. Tell me about them. Would you be able to log on to the,
I don't.
this is the recurring.
Just give us a second while we
It starts
figure
on
out
the
some
other laptop, but it's not picking up the
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, but it's not picking it up on my feed on my laptop. Not like I've set up start on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All good?
Yes.
Do we have anyone else online?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was running late.
Okay. So we'll take this vote by hand? I mean, just voice. I don't know what I'm talking about. So all in favor of, I need a motion for the consent agenda. Let's start there.
So moved.
Thank you, Tom.
Seconded.
And a second, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you, sorry. Whew, 6-0. Okay, let's move on to public comment. That we know how to do. A reminder that public comment for any item or topic on or off the agenda is always available near the top of the agenda for individuals to share their thoughts. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Please use public comment even if you refer to something later on the agenda. Virtual public comment is available through Zoom. Raise your hand and you'll be promoted to panelist and unmuted, or in person at the microphone in the room.
I've only got two online.
Okay. Doesn't seem like anyone's here tonight for that, so we'll move on to informational updates and start with the students.
Okay, so we have our 7th advisory this week on Wednesday. Not quite sure what's going to happen during long block, but something will, maybe. I'm assuming college stuff for the juniors and kind of wrapping stuff up for the seniors. There's also the WADA State Festival. The state finals are Thursday through Saturday, so that's March 27th through 29th. So we wish them the best of luck. There's also no school on Monday the 31st because of, I believe I'm saying this right, Eid al-Fitr. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we will have no school. And then this week is also Neurodiversity Week. So there's a Spirit Week at WA. Today was Mix and Match, so wear any colors, themes, patterns, or styles to showcase neurodiversity. Tomorrow is Tie-Dye, where tie-dye to celebrate the beauty of the diverse spectrum of the human mind. Wednesday is Worthy Day, so dress to show what you love, an activity, a sport, a class, etc. Thursday is Superhero, celebrate unique strengths of neurodivergent individuals by dressing as your favorite superhero. And then Friday is Sensory Friendly, so wear comfortable clothing. So it is a fun week at WA.
Great one.
Cool.
Daniel, go ahead.
Yes, so last Wednesday, Best Buddies had their dance party. It was a great time. I saw a lot of dancing, a lot of music, just, overall a great time. On Wednesday, April 2nd, Chorus will have their spring concert from 7 to 9 and the PAC, and the following day, the 3rd, Band and Orchestra will also be having their spring concert from 7 to 9 p.m. in the PAC. Quarter 4 starts in about 2.5 weeks, which means it's the nearing of the end of the high school career for many seniors. But their last day is on Friday, April 11th, and that's when they will start their capstone journeys. Next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, the sophomores will be having their ELA MCAS. And last Tuesday, WA hosted the first Polar Plunge. It was a huge success with over $8,400 raised in benefit of Massachusetts Special Olympics. and over 100 students and faculty members participated in the plunge with Mr. Toomey.
That's not Mr. Toomey, is it? Doing a belly flop?
Yeah, Miss Murphy and Detective Bernadine participating in plunging, and overall just a great school and community bonding activity in support of a great cause.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll switch to administration for updates.
Sure. So I had a meeting last week with Athletic Director Mr. Bunyan, Jeff Bunyan, and we were talking about the idea that they're going to be able to start a new girls flag football club this spring. There's 60 teams across the state that has been doing this. It's sponsored by the Patriots, so the Patriots are providing money to school districts that are trying to get this type of an organization. It'll just be a club activity, not an official sport, as they start. But Neshoba Valley Tech has a team as well too. So in Westford alone, the two high schools will each be having a team, and it's going to start this spring. So I think that's kind of exciting. They're capitalizing off the NFL is trying to promote this across the country, I guess. And so they were excited to try to get in at the ground floor. There was a lot of interest, I guess. We had a recent audit of food services from DESE, and there was a couple of findings that came to us that we're like, okay, well, these are things that we need to look at. We're going to be potentially bringing some policy language at some point that just is an update to some of our there was one specific policy, we'll tell you about it later, I don't remember exactly which one it was. But interestingly enough, our Standing Wellness Advisory Committee, this was a committee that I was not aware of, and I guess it has existed in the past, and so we're going to be rebooting that. And the reason I share that with you tonight is because we would like one of you to be a liaison on that committee. So the committee is going to be made up of the Director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning, Food Service Director, Curriculum Coordinator for Wellness, a couple of, I think a teacher position. We're actually going to contact HOSA to get maybe 2 students on the committee, hopefully students that might be in their junior or sophomore year, so that, because we're just now starting it, so that they could participate for it next year. But out of that group, they're going to be bringing the policy suggestions to you. So the first scheduled meeting that they have is May 15th at 2:15. So I'm really kind of throwing that back to you, Valerie, to see if somebody is interested in, and then I guess that would be one of those liaisons that we should add to the list so that we don't lose sight of this.
Yeah, moving forward.
Right?
Okay, great. Thanks.
And that's all I have. Did you have? Nope.
Okay. School committee updates? Anybody?
Nope. It's pretty quiet.
Reminder of town meeting on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. So I'll jump on there. So registration starts at 8 a.m. Did you have more?
No.
Parking is predominantly going to be at WA. It's not like before where they thought, go to Abbott first if it's closer. Based on the survey results, what I heard was they expect to be able to accommodate everybody at WA or Robinson, Christopher Lake. There will be coffee for sale. The Roots Roasters. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why it's a tongue twister for me. Cash only from 8 to 10. They'll be selling coffee. And then there's, I think, a pasta bar at lunch, also cash preferred in the cafeteria. And there are 23-ish articles with consent agenda planned for like 11 or 12 of those. So let's hope it's a nice and speedy day. Did you want to add anything from the commission?
Again, just on the Commission on Disability, if there's anyone who requires any sort of accommodations or assistance, to reach out through Town Hall, either by phone or email on that.
Great.
And is that true? The meeting might be a little more Wi-Fi accessible this year?
So they've updated the Wi-Fi at WA that I don't know if the students are supposed to know that.
Yeah.
in that.
Hopefully they've seen a difference. in their day-to-day.
Totally.
So in the theory of it right now, and obviously Saturday will be the practice,
Okay.
that everybody, the town staff and residents should all be able to work off the Wi-Fi as needed. So,
Great.
but we will see how that goes on Saturday.
I do believe the focus of improving the Wi-Fi was the
Town
gym.
meeting.
It was the gym, yes,
It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
throughout
yeah,
the
yeah.
whole
Sorry,
building.
it's
It
not
was-
through
It was
Wi-Fi,
very
yeah.
targeted.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I was there this weekend for youth basketball championships, and I thought a difference.
Yeah.
an
Watching the game the
improvement.
entire time?
I was volunteering, actually. My child was actually not playing, which is a whole nother story, but yeah, I noticed a difference.
Yeah.
Any other updates I missed?
Neurodiversity Week, Lego building,
It's-
First Parish Church, this Friday, 3 to 6.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great time last year.
Did you have to purchase tickets for that? or-
No, it's a
Okay.
totally free event. Everything's
Okay.
free. The
Great.
snacks and all. It's just a come and, have some fun. And what we're actually trying to do this year is bring some more local businesses and experts from the community and areas to the event to kind of display for families and community members what kind of services and experts we have in our community and what's available, and just an opportunity to speak. So we've potentially even got very high expert coming from Tufts, so we're quite excited about that. So yeah, come Friday.
Very good.
Any other updates from the committee?
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to take it. It's how often do we get St. Patrick, school committee meeting on St. Patrick's Day, so gotta give a shout out.
The only other update I was going to mention was the citizens petition to change the election day. I've decided, this would have been on the agenda because of our discussion from last meeting. I've decided to withdraw that at their March 11th meeting. The select board voted 5-0 not to recommend. So, and agreed to do further study to look at alternatives. So I'm hoping that process leads to success, and I look forward to seeing what they come up with. So we'll get right started into business tonight with a Robinson School Building Committee update. So we've been holding forums and tours. It's been low interest. But what interest we have had was very helpful. We started with last week with a informational session at the Cameron Senior Center, and it was really good to have a kind of a practice run through of the slides, and we had some engaged audience members giving real-time feedback on where to emphasize and where to focus some of our messaging. So that was helpful. The following day, we were at Robinson itself for the building was open for tours, and then we held a virtual hybrid information session. We only had one attendee, so we answered that individual's questions and then closed the meeting.
They were good questions, though.
Yep, they were.
And the other piece, though, is why I feel still optimistic. Over 400 people have seen the tour video.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it's really accessible.
I think
it's
people have
terrific
been
video.
watching this, so I think then the idea of needing to come to ask to answer this question, I don't think was something that
Yeah.
people felt that they needed to do.
Right.
I appreciate, though, that you've given the option to
Mhm.
people. I think that's really
Yeah.
important that they have that option.
Yep.
Yeah, we were also there on Saturday.
It was beautiful outside.
It was beautiful outside, so we knew it would be a struggle.
Yep.
But we did get a lengthy tour. We did have the honor of giving a lengthy tour to a resident who hadn't been inside the building in years and years, and was, I think, adequately convinced of the needs that we were showing them, and took some pictures to show their family members, and so it was really worthwhile.
We had somebody else who came in and asked us some questions,
Oh,
but
okay,
didn't need a
Did the
tour.
tour. Okay.
Yeah, so one other person did come in and
Okay.
chat with us for a little bit.
Great.
They may have wanted to know if they could use the restroom while they were playing tennis,
They saw the door propped open, yeah.
but they stopped and they did chat with us and ask us good questions.
So in the packet tonight, once we get that in there, but I did send it to all of you, is a yes/no table, like we've done for some of the other complicated, controversial articles at town meeting in the past. just to try and really make it clear to everyone at town meeting what the risks of this failing would be, that, you know, you have to start the MSBA process over again, you start at the back of the line, sort of. And so this is not, this does not automatically lead to a building project or a renovation project. There would be a future vote on those things. So just trying to put that information out there to dispel any of the misinformation or rumors circulating. So hope to see everybody. Anything else you want to add there?
No.
Okay. And hope to see everybody at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll move right on to the competency determination. which we'll
So
hand over to Dr.
I
Chu.
sent, we'll add this to the
I'm gonna put it
packet. I wasn't able to get this to Kathy to have her added to the packet earlier, but I did share this with you all before the meeting if you had a chance to take a look at it. This is the proposed language. I met with Principal Toomey, the curriculum coordinators for ELA, Janet Kierstead, and the STEM curriculum coordinator, Joe Barnes, along with Lauren Clark, our director of counseling at Westford Academy. And so they did a great job looking at other examples, drafting it. They did a lot of this, the word smithing. I was losing what that word was. The word smithing to this point, but we talked about what the content should be of this and what we were thinking. And so what you'll see here, the heart of this really is what do students have to pass in order to receive this CD. Now, for context, I'll just kind of remind everybody, and it does say it in this language as well too. The idea here is that this would be embedded within the graduation requirement policy that the school committee is going to be looking at. So, again, previously, MCAS, the exams in the state of Massachusetts, a student had to pass the 10th grade MCAS exams, specifically the math exam, the ELA exam, and then one of the science exams. But with the ballot question that took place last fall, the voters in Massachusetts removed that assessment as a way for students to earn this competency determination. And the competency determination is something that is required by the law that we have. So the new language in the law says that the local education authority, the local districts, they need to determine how does a student exhibit mastery in the coursework that was previously assessed by the MCAS exams in 2023. It's actually what it said, right? And so when we look at that and we look at what those standards were, it was assessing 10th grade standards in ELA. It was assessing students' mastery in Algebra 1 and in geometry. And then the science options were, it depends on which test you were taking. We gave the biology test here in Westford, but there was also tests that could have also assessed students' knowledge in physics and chemistry as well too. And so what we've put together here is what we think students should have to pass to demonstrate mastery in the subject area in order to get this competency determination. So this is in connection with all of their local graduation requirements. The Board of Education, Bessie, if you will, they right now are considering the language for the future and what they might look at next year. And what this recommendation has is very similar to what they're talking about, which would be 9th grade and 10th grade English, Algebra 1 and geometry, and then biology, chemistry, or physics. So it would only be one of the lab sciences there, but it would be 2 courses in math and 2 English courses. Now, the parentheses that we put here, we did this on purpose so that the idea, the conversation that we had and when we looked at what some other districts were doing as well too, the idea is that if a student moves here from a different state or even country, but is able to successfully pass 11th grade or 12th grade English, we can assume that they then have also shown demonstrated mastery of what the 9th and 10th grade standards were. So that's why it says that, right? The other example here is that right now, I believe I was told this year, approximately 50% of our 8th grade students are taking Algebra 1. So they wouldn't take Algebra 1 at Westford Academy, they would end up taking Geometry and then Algebra 2. So when they take Geometry and then Algebra 2, we can then assume that they're demonstrating mastery of Algebra 1. Does that make sense to everybody? Just like if we had a student who came in, which we've had, come and join us, and then they're taking an AP Bio or AP Chemistry or AP Physics in their senior year, we can assume that that by successfully passing that course, they are demonstrating mastery in this other. So that's the way that this is developed. They put the questions on there. They have some, information as to what does all this mean. But this is what they're sharing with you. We really we shared it with all of you instead of just giving it directly to the policy subcommittee, just that you can kind of see this. I think whether you decide to vote on it separately than the policy in general, I think that's something the committee can talk about. But we wanted to get the language in front of you so that you could start to make decisions around it.
Yep. Great, thank you.
And Dr. Chu, just to be clear, we're talking about two things, right? So the competency determination, which was replacing the MCAS, and also the 117.5 credits.
Correct.
Set by the district, which kind of aligns to the Mass Core and
Yes.
that state recommended through the board. Okay. So I think it's like two benchmarks then for graduation. Got it.
Can I ask just to understand, you know how with the English and the math, we have very, very clearly outlined it's English 9 and 10, Algebra 1 and Geometry. What does that look like in science? When we're just saying biology, chemistry, or physics, is that, one...
It's one course.
One course.
Yep.
At any level,
Yep.
9th or 10th, okay.
Yep. So if they were, so again, it would be and this is where it can be confusing for some people too, because having these specific things delineated helps us to say if someone's coming to us from a different school and they've transferred to Westford Academy, then there's a different way for the guidance department and for the administration to kind of look at a transcript and say, how does it align with this? The students have to pass their English classes in order to graduate.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where the graduation requirements are lining up with this. But the state of Massachusetts also we had to develop what this competency determination was so that there's some sort of consistency. It used to be the exam and now it's something else. So when it was an exam, I think it made a little bit more sense as to why they were different. But now that the exam doesn't exist, to say that, well, in order to get the diploma and get the competency determination, you definitely have to pass these two things. And so I'm not sure what Bessie's going to do moving forward and whether we're going to find an alternative exam that the state would want to take that's different, or I'm not sure. But right now, they've left it up to all of the local school boards to determine what this means for this graduating class.
So in some ways, this is just addressing that piece that the ballot question eliminated, right?
That is all this is doing. Yep.
And it almost sounds like it might just be a placeholder until the board can figure out what
Right. I think
they want to
yes.
propose.
Yes. And the good thing is, and we weren't considering two. When we first started the conversation, we weren't considering English 9 and English 10. We were just really kind of focusing on 10 because, again, that's what the exam really was. But then I think looking at what other people are doing and knowing that the board has already been talking about it being 9 and 10, and then we knew that Algebra 1 and Geometry, that was important because those were two separate courses in many places, and so that was an important piece. That's why we went ahead and said, okay, well, let's include that now. This way, if this does stay aligned with what the Board of Education is saying, then you won't have to change the policy.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, this almost sets a foundation for whatever graduation requirements are determined in the future. You know,
Yeah.
graduation requirements will need to first meet these and then anything above that
Well,
we as a district.
They're kind of they're kind
Yeah.
of like, the graduation requirements is our thing, is
Right,
like
but
what,
it's
to,
gonna
yeah.
be built on top of this, really. Like, we can't say, oh, well, you only need ninth grade.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
no,
yeah,
yeah, there's no scenario where you just pass these 5 courses and get a
And give-
diploma.
yeah.
No, because
Right.
you haven't met the other requirements. But if you if you didn't pass those classes, but you're still able to somehow get the graduation requirements, because there might be some scenario where that could happen, where, I'll use math as an example. I'm not sure how it would work with science, because you would have to pass one of those science classes. But I guess it would be possible for a student to not pass geometry and still end up taking other math courses at WA, which would meet that. Now, of course, if anybody's watching right now, I could see the curriculum coordinator saying, "No, Dr. Chu, just pay attention to how the map goes." And I'm
It's like a Venn diagram.
it
in my
is,
mind.
it
Yes,
is.
it is.
There's
It is.
overlap, but there's
It
also
feels like a
separate.
mid-progress sort of benchmark
Yeah.
Yeah.
on your way to doing 4 years. That's what
Yeah.
it feels like.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's kind of silly in a sense that it's like it's not. There's a very slim set of facts where you can not meet the graduation
Yeah.
requirements and still pass this. So,
Right.
I mean, as long as we're all under the impression and know that this is a requirement kind of imposed on us from the state, and that's why we're doing this. We're not doing this because we like it or we think that it's an effective tool, but we have to do it until the state kind of figures out what they're doing.
Yeah.
You're right. It's
I
not
mean,
about us debating
yeah.
the competency determination, because that's something we have to have. And the ballot changed the language to say they have to demonstrate mastery in the coursework that was previously assessed, which
Sure.
is also already established.
Right.
Now, in this question here, is a former student who previously did not complete the CD now eligible, so let's say class of 2024, we vote on this, we approve it in time,
That is correct.
it's possible that those, okay.
That is correct.
Yep.
If somebody did not receive a diploma because they didn't pass the exams,
Exams, yeah.
but they did pass the classes,
Yep.
they would then be eligible to receive their diploma.
Good.
And I think it might be worth just just noting for the rest of the committee, the policy subcommittee met this week, because I know we're working on the graduation requirements. So we were kind of discussing this, and the idea of then just, if we as a committee want to approve the competency determination ahead of actually voting on the entire graduation policy, this would just kind of slot into the graduation policy language. Because of course, we do have students,
From like a timeliness point of
a
view.
timeliness,
Right.
exactly. We have students this year who now, just want to know. So this is something that we, if we're comfortable with voting on even the next meeting,
Yeah,
and
I think
that
it's up to-
we would just take the language and slot it into the graduation requirements policy, that we're kind of just taking an extra week or two, I think, before we kind of start the wheels in motion of bringing a kind of draft policy to the committee.
And then rip it all up next year when the state gives us different
Well,
guidance, you know?
I was just
yeah.
gonna suggest maybe this does reside outside of the whole policy and it's referenced,
Yeah, 'cause-
so that you can slide in the new CD
Exactly.
without opening up the entire policy.
Yeah.
There's also that, just again, the notion that this is now, right? And so
Yes.
this, any decision you make around the competency determination would impact the class of 2025.
Exactly.
Whereas anything you did to the graduation
Wouldn't.
policy would
Yeah.
be rolled in most likely.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason for this to be sort of separated but
Okay,
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
attached.
Yeah.
And also, given the dates that our students have shared with us, this does have some timeliness to it.
Exactly.
You know, to get this out there.
So I don't know, like, if you guys are okay, we would put it down on the agenda for a vote at the next meeting. And then in the
I
meantime.
can also tell you that this recommendation as it is, would not negatively impact any member of the class of 2025.
Great. In that example for the move-ins,
Mhm.
before November 2024, those students would have had to like sit for the MCAS exams?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. I understood that correctly.
Yep.
Unless they transferred from a Massachusetts.
Another Massachusetts
Sure.
school.
Mhm.
Had they not, had they taken it, but if they came to us from out of state or from another country, then they would be required to take the exams.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on this? I'm hearing some openness to putting this on the April 1st agenda. We'll let policy keep chugging along and loop us in as a whole committee when they're ready.
Yep.
Okay, great. We're going to move on to policy review update. So this is the revolving and special fund accounts, P3305. That was, had our first reading at the last meeting. So I'd like a motion to waive the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, was that you, Bill?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. All in favor of waiving the second reading of P3305? Okay, great, thanks. 5-0. So it's been up for public comment. There has been
Nothing.
no comments on there. The Finance Subcommittee has a scheduled meeting next Monday, so we will,
And public comment closes the 19th, Wednesday. That's the last day for public comment.
okay. And Finance Subcommittee will meet next Monday and review it, so if there's any other feedback from committee members, please let us know.
I think the fact you got the shout out in the Finance Committee report of suggesting that the select board maybe take a look at that work is kudos.
Want to come to our meetings? More
Exactly.
than welcome.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's pretty much all of our discussion for that. Please feel free to keep checking it, keep mulling it over, and let me know if you do have any feedback. And lastly, tonight we have school choice openings for next school year. So Dr. Chu, there's something in the packet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, oh, I thought I printed that.
So this year, in the class of 2025, we would be graduating 10 students from
I'm
the
one of
school
them.
choice.
Hey.
Proudly represented.
We've been very proud to have you, Maddie. So one of the things that we've looked at was trying to maintain that number, right? So initially, I'd say, okay, well, where would we then look at the class sizes and the other grades to where might we identify openings so that we can recoup those 10 slots? In looking at, again, our staff enrollments versus the school choice enrollments last year, if you remember, I shared with you that we were able to have openings where we knew that there were siblings of students who were already in the school choice program and that they would become they would have priority, and it would actually be a way for us to kind of move students from one category to another category, but it didn't have an impact on the overall numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The recommendations this year do that same thing. It doesn't have there isn't a priority with siblings, but what I looked at was where do we have staff students who are already counted in those class sizes. And so if we were to identify openings there, we have the possibility of absorbing them into the school choice. It might not happen because it is an open lottery, and so we do it publicly. We pick names out of a little glass bowl, and so we might not pick those names. But the number, if we increase the class sizes or that grade level, it wouldn't be significant. So I feel like it's a I don't want to say gamble, but it is it's a gamble. We don't know if we're going to do it, but if we can actually absorb the students who we're already supporting because their staff members within their contract allows them to bring their kids here, and we can actually then receive money from the sending district, that makes sense to me. So that allows us to maximize our school choice offering. So that's what you have in front of you, is that's where those grades are, the openings are identified in grades where there is staff, students already there.
And so, I was about to say, when does could you speak to the process for anybody who hasn't?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that Kathy's?
That is, Kathy knows so much more, and I didn't look at that as to when we open it. We don't do the lottery until the summer.
Yeah.
We actually do the lottery usually in the end of July, but it is on the website as to when it's going to be posted, and when and how long that's open. And I apologize for not remembering. Kathy would know
No
that
worries.
information.
I'm just seeing if it's here.
And so, Chris, so we're presuming, sorry, is the amount that we get in additional Chapter 70 funds, is it still 5,000
Yes.
per student?
That's the base.
Okay.
Depending on, sometimes if students if they receive special education services, then a sending district we might get some more money in Chapter 70 than just the 5,000, but the base amount for each student is 5,000.
Okay. And so your recommendation is suggesting opening up another 19 slots?
It's opening 19 slots, which is holding
the
on
10.
to 10, so
10
it's really
plus
9 new slots.
So you're expecting
It's 9.
45,000.
So it would increase our school choice
9 times 5.
potentially by $45,000.
So that was my question. Where's the 50,000 coming from? And it's not that you're saying that half of them we won't get paid on. It's because the delta is 9 additional.
Yeah.
Then we're making the assumption that those will be 9 additional paying
Yes.
families.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the 50,000 we would lose if we don't open slots. If you chose not to do that and you didn't want us to open any slots, we would lose the 10 students who are graduating. So that's where we would potentially lose $50,000 in school choice funding for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Chu, in a given year, how many families apply for the lottery? Do you have a?
It depends on the grade level, but I would say in my time, we've had, there's usually always a wait list as well too, so depending on the number of slots. So we normally have about 10 people apply for open spots, so it would depend on where those open spots have been in the past. So I'm thinking about, I'd have to go back to look at the other numbers to see what that would mean.
So I'll say I appreciate the fact that you're looking at spreading them out too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
looking at the current, we have this year and we have current 9th graders, so those are kind of big
Yeah.
years, right? But it looks like you're trying to smooth that a little bit more so we don't have that potential of a big.
And that's also another thing that we haven't done. Last year was the first year, to my knowledge, and since I've been in the district, that we had the 9th grade slots because we, again, had that large group of students who, some of them we knew we could absorb because they were already siblings of students in school choice. And so this year, we do actually have 2 going into their sophomore year. So I actually am recommending that we open up 2 slots in the sophomore year, and if we can absorb those 2, great. If we don't, adding 2 to the sophomore class would not be, it wouldn't have that much of an impact.
I think it's also important to recognize the fact that even if, again, based on where things are spread out, even if we said we're not going to do that, it's not like that's a savings of a teacher salary.
Right,
There's not 19, it's not a class of 19 anywhere, so.
right.
Can you remind me, when you sit down and look at these openings, do you have schools in mind?
So, yes, with this year, because the first thing I'm looking at is where the students already are, because they're, again, those numbers are associated with with a student who's already in school.
Okay.
Right? One of the things I said to the principals when I shared this with them is I said, I'm not committing to where the open slot would be if it's a new person coming into the district yet, because I want to look more closely at, but I do know that there is space.
And so that's part of the process, is
And-
that families don't know.
They don't know. They know that it would be a whatever, a grade, a third grade opening. But we are not, we don't have to say at which school, because that could actually shift based on students moving in.
Yeah.
We would then be, we would need to still have that,
Yeah.
that space, but we
then
could have
once-
more people move into one district, one area,
Once they're into one.
than they're in for their
they're in-
career.
Okay.
I
so-
can share. I was a school choice kid, and when I was going into middle school, I'd gone up through Miller and Day, and right up until like a week before middle school started, I was set to go to Blanchard, and then numbers changed, and I was switched to Stony, and I know that was the same for a couple other kids, so we were moved around until
We
we had
did
a
that-
spot, and
that
then we
year.
stayed. And I loved
But
Stony.
then you came to Stony
and
Brook,
I loved
and I was your
Stony.
principal.
It was great.
I
Stony's
was gonna
better.
say, careful what you say next.
No, I loved it. I loved
Salt
it.
was after.
Yeah.
Tell us the
It
gossip.
was great.
But that actually, because that is a thing that everybody who participates in open enrollment, which is people who live in town who might request their child to go to a different school, or school choice, one of the things we've always said is that while there's still a commitment that you will be able to stay in Westford Public Schools, and we've also always let them stay in the school that they're in for that career of that school. But with the transitions we have, we communicate to everybody that we might make changes. And I remember actually, Maddie, that year, because there was
So many.
we were trying to balance it so that
Yeah. It was
we
crazy.
brought the students to Stony Brook so that we could have
I got a spot. We're good.
Yeah.
I made it.
So in that example, if a family came in kindergarten in NAB, they'll stay at NAB. but
for
they
those
may-
first until
they may
second
not
grade.
move up with their
Right.
class to Abbott. They might
Right.
get reallocated. Okay, I'm just making sure I understand the process.
Yes, and our default was, in the past, it was, honestly, they were kind of going back to zero and we were replacing them again. But something we've been talking about over the last couple of years is that our new default really is, our goal is to keep students with their cohorts, unless there's extenuating circumstances, in which case they know that we might have to make an adjustment, but we don't want to,
Yeah.
we
It's not
want
the
people
goal.
to stay with the cohort,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not the goal to make it unattractive.
That's right.
So again, this would come back for a vote at our next meeting, which is a Tuesday. I'm going to start reminding you now. It'll be off schedule. April 1st. April Fool's Day.
On a Tuesday, everything about it's on.
Oh, man. I'm doomed.
Is
But-
it really a meeting?
Yeah. Any other questions tonight? Okay, you can always share those questions if they come to you later. And otherwise, I will take a motion to adjourn. I can't keep a straight face.
Second.
I'm sorry, who did I miss?
Oh, no, we need
I was-
to make the motion.
somebody make-
So moved.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
Kathy and Lori. Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you.